I now give the floor to His Excellency Awad Ahmed Binmubarak, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Expatriates of Yemen.
In the name of God, most merciful, most compassionate, Your Excellency, President of the General Assembly, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at the outset to congratulate Your Excellency, Mr. Abdullah Shahid, and your friendly country, the Republic of the Maldives, for your election as President of the current United Nations General Assembly session, and I wish you all success. I would also like to thank your predecessor, Mr. Volkan Bozkir, for his especially remarkable efforts during the past session. I would also like to congratulate His Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, for his re-election for a second term at the helm of the United Nations, and I would like to thank him for his endeavors in steering our organization, especially amidst the corona pandemic, towards enhancing its role in maintaining international peace and security and implementing the UN's noble mission of global peace and prosperity. I would like to convey His Excellency President Abdullah Mansour Hadi's appreciation and gratitude for the efforts made by the United Nations Secretary General to achieve comprehensive and sustainable peace in Yemen, and I do commend his tireless efforts in addressing all, especially humanitarian challenges. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the great Yemeni people at the anniversary of the September and October glorious revolutions. This anniversary coincides with this high-level meeting. The 26th of September revolution of 1962 broke out to eliminate the abhorrent imamate theocracy, injustice, and oppression with good riddance, and for the Yemeni people to recover their legitimate rights. The international community recognized the nascent Yemeni Republic during the 17th UNGA session. On 20th of December of 1962, the President of the General Assembly, Muhammad Zafarullah Khan, expelled the lineal, ethnic, abhorrent, theocratic delegation from this very hall to be replaced by the delegation of the Republic of Yemen, which took their deserved position here at the General Assembly, where the then head of Yemeni delegation delivered his first statement that marked the first diplomatic victory for the new Republican regime, which was open to the values of modern times. A day in the sun, basking not in the rays of daylight, but in the beams with our own hands we created. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we are here in convening, Yemen has for the last 7 years been suffering hardships due to the war forced on our people by the Houthi coup militias, with the logistic and military support of the Iranian regime, aiming to destabilize Yemen and the region and create sectarian entities and armed militias affiliated therewith instead of national armies. This proves that Iran has been and continues to be part of the problem in Yemen rather than the solution. The coup by the Houthi militias transformed the spring of freedom, dialogue, and peaceful transfer of power of September 20 into an autumn of suffering, injustice, oppression, destruction of political participation, suffocation of public freedoms, raids on houses, explosion of schools and places of worship, chasing of opponents, torturing citizens, and transforming Sana'a, the city of history, civilization, and peaceful coexistence, into a large prison for the Yemeni people. The UN has played a critical role in the political transition in Yemen since 2011, starting with the interim period according to the GCC initiative and its executive mechanism. Then the Comprehensive National Dialogue, which included all segments of the Yemeni society, and the elaboration of the draft Yemeni constitution pursuant to the outcomes of the dialogue, which was eventually put up for referendum to be eventually adopted and invoked for conducting the elections. The Houthi coup placed a stick in the wheel of the interim phase and waged an all-out war against the Yemeni people. In this regard, I would like to commend the efforts of the two envoys of the UNSG to Yemen who continue to carry the UN mantle in Yemen. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome anew the appointment of Mr. Hans Grunberg as the Special Envoy of the Secretary General to Yemen. We reiterate our full cooperation and we hope that his efforts would contribute to fair and sustainable peace on the basis of the terms of reference of a political solution in Yemen guided by the GCC initiative, its executive mechanism, the outcomes of the Comprehensive National Dialogue, and the relevant Security Council resolutions, especially Resolution 2216. Mr. President, this war forced on our people culminated into a humanitarian catastrophe, dismembered the Yemeni society, and triggered waves of mass displacement, oppression, forced disappearance, and unprecedented destitution. We have extended our hands with peace time and again to spare our people those scourges and disasters. We spared no effort to support and facilitate the efforts of the United Nations and the former UN envoy and his two predecessors to salvage the country and achieve lasting and comprehensive peace that would put an end to the coup and war and the bloodshed of Yemeni people and the Yemeni tragedy. We agreed to any format whereby the principles and immortal republican regime of Yemen could be preserved, that very regime that renounced the ethnic lineal theocratic regime. We have made a lot of compromises to achieve peace throughout the last 6 years, and we even accepted all initiatives and proposals that aim to put an end to the coup, especially the initiative by the former envoy Mr. Martin Griffith and the initiative made by Saudi Arabia, which is based on a comprehensive ceasefire as one of the most important humanitarian steps that contribute to addressing all humanitarian and economic issues, including reopening the Sana'a airport and facilitating access of oil derivatives through the Hodeidah port, according to the Stockholm Agreement. However, all those efforts were met by intransigence by the terrorist Houthi militias and their Iranian patrons, and they even took advantage of this for mobilization and escalation and attacking a number of governorates and cities. They have even perpetrated more carnages and massacres against civilians in a number of governorates and cities in Yemen. And currently, Ma'rib governorate is victim to attacks by the Houthi militias using ballistic missiles, drones, and heavy weaponry, with total indifference to the lives of civilians and displaced persons who escaped their areas of control, who are estimated by more than 2 million people. In addition to the recurrent targeting by those militias of civilians and civilian infrastructure in Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, they destabilize stable areas, including the latest aggression against Shabwa Governorate, which is a symbol of pride and resilience and one of the most important models of stability and development in Yemen, as well as their attacks against Al-Bayda and Abian and the Dala Governorates. And recently, they have also destroyed the civilian Mocha port after its soft opening to be the only port on the western coast, and the Taiz Governorate, which has been under siege for 6 years. All this paints a very vibrant picture of the intentions of those militias and their stance regarding peace, without realizing that weapons and violence will not sow the seeds of peace, but will create vicious circles of conflict and war that will only claim more lives. This requires the international community to shoulder its responsibility and put an end to this arrogance and the suffering of our people by exerting pressure on the coup leaders and their sponsors to implement the Security Council resolutions and to put an end to the bloodshed, destruction, and to create an environment conducive to access of all Yemenis to humanitarian aid. Allow me, and from this very platform, to pay tribute to the sacrifices of the military forces and resistance people all over Yemen, all over the territories of Yemen, especially our heroes in Ma'rib and Shabwa who defend the country and its dignity. Mr. President, the crimes and violations perpetrated by Houthis are inconceivable. On Saturday, 18th of September, they have extrajudicially executed 9 Yemenis, including a minor, in a very abhorrent and heinous manner that is very similar to the crimes perpetrated by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Dozens of Yemenis languish in dungeons on the execution queue. If the word fails to salvage them, this is only the tip of the iceberg, as we have thousands of politicians, activists, and journalists who are languishing in clandestine dungeons. Meanwhile, the Yemeni government insists on invoking the international humanitarian law and upholds human rights, especially women's rights. And we stress our upholding of Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, and we have taken a number of measures, and we adopted a national plan on women, peace and security. Mr. President, my country suffers economic and humanitarian hardships since the coup by the Houthi militias. And given the deteriorating national economy, the decline in job opportunities, and devaluation of our currency, the national economy has deflated by 50%. And currently, the low purchase power of citizens is the main driver towards famine, which threatens millions of Yemenis. And in this regard, we would like to thank our sisters, brothers, and friends who supported us, and organizations and donor countries which are trying to mitigate the humanitarian tragedy suffered by the Yemeni people. However, all these efforts are not spared by the Houthi militias, which are persistent in the war forced on us, a matter that has exacerbated the economic challenges in Yemen. However, Houthi militias continue to impose more taxes and customs fees, even between Yemeni cities, and they harness this to feed the war machinery and to pay salaries of their own people. Meanwhile, militias try to circumvent all rules to have access to goods and basic needs, even from humanitarian aid. And all this money, which is estimated by $3.8 billion per year, in addition to the amounts garnered by warlords, all this money is invested in recruiting children and involving them into the war. Mr. President, notwithstanding the great efforts made by the government and which the government continue to make in order to mitigate the economic impacts of war, still they are insufficient, and we always welcome the humanitarian support extended by the United Nations and the Society of Donors. However, we find that for the Yemeni economy to be supported and for job opportunities to be created, this would eventually be the ultimate solution. And in this regard, we do have certain practical points and steps that should be taken. First of all, more pressure should be exerted on Houthis to provide the amounts of money that they are imposing on people and the taxes they are getting, they have to deposit in the central bank. Also, all the money pillaged by them should be deposited in the central bank. Secondly, you have to support the Yemeni economy and to put an end to the devaluation of the Yemeni currency, including channeling all aid money through the central bank. Third, mainstreaming development needs and priorities in all humanitarian aid activities to help and spur the early recovery of the Yemeni economy. Fourth, we need a package of financial support to Yemen, including a deposit to the central Yemeni bank to put an end to the economic fallout in Yemen, as well as the currency fallout in Yemen. Mr. President, the government of my country would like to thank the international efforts, especially in the initiative of COVAX and the friendly countries that donated more than 1 million vaccine doses. However, all these doses are still short of expectation, and we look forward to an increase in vaccine doses in order to leave no one behind, as no single country will be safe until we are all safe, especially the least developed countries. I call upon the international community to spare no effort to put an end to the potential and to avert the potential catastrophe that might be caused by the Safir tank, as the Houthi militias continue to deny UN teams to have access to the tank. Mr. President, the Yemeni government works towards unifying all Yemeni segments with the help of Saudi Arabia, as we managed to form a Yemeni government which was relocated to the interim capital Aden to start a new phase where we try to meet all the basic needs of our people. However, the government is faced by a number of security and economic challenges. In this regard, I would like to stress the importance of the implementation of the security and military section of the Riyadh Agreement and the importance and necessity of the return by the government to the interim capital. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, Yemen stresses its principled position vis-à-vis the Palestinian cause and the indelible rights of the Palestinian people, including the establishment of the independent state with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital, and we call upon the international community to provide the UNRWA with all support necessary to provide Palestinian refugees with services, and we do condemn the ongoing and persistent settlement policies by Israel on Palestinian territories, as well as violations of Christian and Muslim sites. In conclusion, I wish you all success, and I wish for the United Nations more effectiveness in serving humanity. And I hope that the UN resolutions would be at the level of the staggering challenges that we are facing, and I wish all member states prosperity, and I wish humanity happiness and prosperity, and peace be upon you.